Oh, hi there. Ollie Anderson here. What if you've been lied to about what healing actually is? What if you're on a healing journey to heal yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it turns out that for whatever reason, you've been going on a wild goose chase because there's so much bullshit out there about what healing actually is that it causes people to be chasing something that they can never actually chase in the first place because it's not even real. And so they just stay stuck because the version of healing that they are after actually belongs to the unhealed version of them. And so they're getting all confused and lost in these different stories and narratives about what healing might be without ever getting anywhere. That's what this video is about. I'm going to break down the most common of these myths around healing and show you why real always works. So let's go. The first myth around healing is probably the most common in our culture. It's the idea that you should follow your feelings. Follow your feelings. What wonderful advice. That is bound to lead you to a place of wholeness where you feel healed and humble and that you can flow with life instead of having all kinds of problems. Actually, that's not true. Following your feelings is bullshit. The reason being that your feelings are not worth following because they're temporary, they're constantly changing, they conflict with other feelings. And so if you decide that you're going to follow them, well, you're just going to end up in a kind of confused state where you're pulling yourself in different directions, where you're not living according to your principles or any understanding of what's true. You're just going with these little fragmentary experiences that arise within you. I'm thinking that they're going to somehow solve the problem of whatever it is that's making you feel like you need to be healed in the first place. Feelings are important because they're part of the human experience. We should feel our feelings. We should allow them to rise and then pass like a wave, rising and then falling. But if we follow our feelings, we're just going to have a bad time. And if you buy into the cultural narrative that you can heal your life by putting your feelings on a pedestal, well, you're just going to have a bad time. It's never going to work. The next myth in our society is that if you want to heal yourself, then you need to cultivate self-esteem. If you can just cultivate enough of this imaginary essence, self-esteem, then all of your problems are going to be solved. You'll finally get the appreciation, the applause, the approval of the world outside of yourself. And so you do that by basically trying to find a way to make the world think that you are worthy in some way. And then you will allow yourself to feel good because your relationship with yourself is dependent on how the external world sees you. And so we call that esteem. And so basically what self-esteem means, if you think about it, is you do enough for the world to make it seem like it cares about you when it probably doesn't. You get enough likes on Instagram. You get a new certificate and people give you a round of applause. You do various things and it keeps your ego kind of boosted up and feeling good about itself, but it's not real because it's all external. If you really, really, really want to heal yourself, you need to work on acceptance, which starts inside yourself, and then you start to think about the external world. You raise awareness of who you are, what you're all about, what your ego is, how you're holding yourself back. You accept yourself at the deepest level, and then you take action. You don't just take action to chase this imaginary self-esteem. It can't work and it doesn't work because it's putting your healing in the hands of other people. The next myth is the idea of self-love or self-care. It sounds nice to love yourself and care for yourself, and it is. It's a piece of the puzzle. But some people take this strategy as being the whole of what their healing approach, and then they just end up getting stuck because self-care and self-love and self-healing are really just about boosting yourself up and tranquilizing you and hypnotizing you to stay where you already are. For example, maybe you've had a long day. You're in a situation that you don't like. You've ended up in a job that you hate, or you've got a relationship that you don't like, whatever it is. And so you go to the bathroom and you fill up the bathtub and then you put some like a bath bomb in there and some other like smelly things. And you get in there and you relax and you tell yourself, okay, yeah, I'm caring for myself now. I love myself. Maybe you write yourself a love letter whilst you're in the bath. All the things that you like about yourself. I love myself because my ass looks great in yoga pants and, I can say some stupid shit on YouTube and blah, 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 blah. And you get a little bit of a boost. You feel good. And then once you've tranquilized yourself with these self-care activities, you go back to your life and it's just as horrible as it was already because you haven't changed anything. You haven't done the work. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look after ourselves. Of course, we should take time out. We should relax. We should recharge. We should refresh ourselves. We should do all these things. But it's about the balance, the yin and the yang. The yang is when you're out there in the world taking action and changing your life and doing the things that you need to do to become who you need to be. The yin, that's when you slow down and you relax and then you recharge so you can do more of that stuff. But a lot of the self-care stuff and the self-love stuff is about just embracing where we are right now and trying to make ourselves be able to tolerate it instead of accepting the fact, again, acceptance, that we all have potential to grow into something more if we want to express more, to find something real and to do more with it. And if you're just tranquilizing yourself and hypnotizing yourself to stay exactly where you are but you don't want to be, then that's not self-love and it's not self-care. It's self-tranquilization and it's not going to heal your life in any way, shape, or form. Another myth is the idea that time heals all wounds. And so, in a way, this is the idea that if you want to heal, you don't actually have to do anything at all. You just need to put enough time between you and whatever it is that you're trying to get over, and then everything's going to be fine because time somehow magically is just going to heal the wounds that you have acquired as you go through life, which is what happens to everyone. And then you don't need to worry about it. Now, think about this logically. If this was really true, that time healed all wounds, there would be no elderly people on the planet who were bitter and miserable about their lives. In fact, there would be no bitter, miserable people on the planet at all, because as time had passed, well, all of their wounds would be healed and they'd all be just so buoyant and joyous and skipping around, depending on the joint flexibility that they have in their old age. They'd all be just living these amazing lives without any emotional baggage because time has healed all the wounds. It's not true. Of course it's not true. It's not the time that heals the wounds. It's what you do with the time. That means you have to go inside yourself. You have to face the emotions. You have to look at your thoughts, figure out what belief system led you to get in that situation that you're trying to heal from in the first place. What lessons have you learned? What will you do differently next time? Blah, 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 blah. Some stuff is so bad that you never get over it. Like that's a red pill, a brutal truth about life. Some people have wounds that they never get over because shit is just so horrible. That doesn't mean they can't get better, but time does not heal all wounds. All you can do with the time is use it to focus your time, energy, and attention on something more real and to keep growing real. And again, that comes back to acceptance because the only way to grow real is to accept yourself, accept the world, accept reality, and then do something with it. So don't just wait for time, do something with the time. Another bullshit myth about healing is this idea that your truth is all that matters. You should just find your truth and you should express your truth and you should live your truth. And if other people don't understand your truth or don't accept your truth and the identity that you created for yourself to uphold your truth, then there's something wrong with them. Even though they're doing the same thing, they're trying to express their truth and live their truth. And so you get all these different people with their different truths just in conflicts. And then a lot of them are doing the other things we've been talking about in this video, like following their feelings and so on and so forth. And so the world just turns into this place where everyone's in conflicts and they're acting like they're emotionally stunted, let's say, and it just causes all kinds of problems. Now, the reason that this idea of following your truth doesn't work is because there's no such thing as your truth and my truth. There is only the truth. That doesn't mean that I don't have my interpretation of the truth and you don't have your interpretation of the truth, and that you can try and live according to that to the best of your ability. But the problem is when people start clinging to your truth, my truth, everybody's truth, then they get attached to the truth and it becomes part of their identity and it becomes part of the ego, which is the main problem because the reason that we feel like we need to heal our lives is because we've created a little box for ourselves to live in, the ego, because of all the unresolved emotional stuff that is bubbling away beneath the surface, normally shame, guilt, and trauma. And so if we're clinging to our truth, and that truth, which is really just an interpretation, is an extension of the ego, then every time we go out there and try to express it, or we try to fight for it, or we try to defend it, we're actually fighting for and defending the thing that is causing us to feel like we need healing in the first place. The healthiest relationship with the truth is to allow it to be the truth, and to accept it as it is, and to to keep dissolving anything that's unreal about you, to keep testing your assumptions about who you are and what life is, to keep testing the limits of your beliefs, and to keep learning who you are, and to be ready to let go of anything unreal so that only the real can remain. That's the only way to have a healthy relationship with the truth. The way that I normally say on this channel is that you need to uncover the truth and then live the truth. If you do that, then your truth, which is really just your interpretation, won't hold you back because you won't be attached to it. You'll be ready to let go of it when you need to so you can grow. And if you grow, then you're more likely to heal. But if you cling to your truth, like your truth is the truth, then you're just going to have a bad time. Another myth that is very common when it comes to healing is this idea that you are enough. This is kind of similar to what I said about the self-care, self-love stuff. It's the idea that you don't really need to make any changes because you're just enough. And so why bother making changes? That's fine. And in a paradoxical kind of way, it makes sense. Like in the basic level of being a human being with inherent worth and inherent value, well, you are enough in that sense where you deserve respect. And, it's not just about your performance and the skills. You just have value for being a human being. That's enough. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, there is a paradox because if you're in a place where you feel unhealed and you want to get to a place where you feel more healed, which means really you're just putting yourself on the path towards wholeness instead of fragmentation, then thinking that you're enough is going to become kind of a mental and emotional stumbling block because you're going to think, well, why do I need to change? Why do I need to grow? Why do I need to put this effort in to heal myself if I'm already enough? And so it just becomes a bit of an obstacle when it doesn't need to be one. And a lot of the time people use it as an excuse. Say, oh, I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm enough, bro. Leave me alone. But it doesn't work like that. Like you are enough, or you could be more, if that makes sense. Another myth around healing that I think is very important, probably the most important in this video, is the idea that you need to heal to be happy. It's actually not true. Like, if you think about how life works, you can be the most healed person on the planet with no emotional wounds. Your mindset is totally on point and directed at reality. Well, you're not going to be happy all the time because life is just one damn thing after another, as somebody said. There's going to be problems. There's going to be obstacles. People are going to drop dead. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to get ill. You can be content and you can be kind of satisfied, but you might not be happy all the time. And so if you fall into this trap of thinking that if you're not happy, then you're not healed, then you might not even see how far you've come. A similar thing is the idea that we somehow link healing with like consumerist success, if you want to call it that. And so a lot of people think when they believe in spiritual bullshittery and things like that, that they're going to get to this point where they're going to be so healed that money is just going to start flying to them and they can click their fingers and all of their dreams are going to come true and things like this. And they think that if they don't get to that point where things are just flowing and manifesting right away, they think that they're not healed. But that's not actually a sign of being healed or not. It's just a sign of how good you are at manifesting, if that's even a thing, or how successful you are in business or whatever. That doesn't mean that you're healed or not healed. It's the same with the happiness thing I started this example with. You can be the most miserable person in the world and you can still kind of be healed because you might just be going through something. Maybe your partner left you or whatever it is, or like someone died, like I said. That is a good reason to be miserable. It doesn't mean you're not healed. And so this myth that if you're not happy, if you're not successful, if you're not getting everything that you want, then you're not healed is actually just the unhealed version of you coming up with an idea of what it wants healing to be like and then putting that on a pedestal and then you're holding it up there and you're constantly looking at it and you're comparing where you are now to what's on the pedestal. And because that's unreal, you always feel like you're not healed when actually you could be. Another myth is the idea that healing is a solo journey, that is totally up to you and you alone because you're omniscient and you're omnipotent and you can just control everything in your life if you just know the right formula to apply to yourself or something like that, the right methodology to follow. Healing is not a solo journey because of two different things. The first one being that some of the things we're trying to heal, some of the wounds that we have from the past, were caused by other people. And that damaged our ability to relate to other people in a real way. And the only way that we can heal those wounds is with other people, not the same people, but with other people where we can have a real relationship, where we can experience real intimacy, where we can just be who we are, where they can be who they are, and we can actually listen to each other and just really embody wholeness and hold space for each other. That is very healing in itself. It's called an interpersonal bridge. The other reason that healing is not a solo journey is because you could spend decades and decades and decades healing yourself, working on yourself, and then you go outside and you start interacting with people, and they're just going to piss you off and frustrate you and make you miserable because they're going to press your buttons or whatever it is, because all you've done is just pick up a bunch of concepts. Maybe you read a bunch of books and you're writing in your journal and you did some self introspection and you were gazing into your belly button. That's fine. It helps you to understand yourself, but you don't know if that work has really worked until you start interacting with other people, because there is no challenge like other human beings, because they are a mirror to us. And so if you just do it, if you take the approach that healing is a solo journey, you might get quite far, but you're not going to get all the way. It's like the old proverb kind of, if you want to travel far, travel with other people. If you want to travel fast, travel alone. So you can make it seem like you're doing a lot of work by yourself, going solo, but you're only going to go far into wholeness when you start interacting with other people. And so healing is not just up to you. The ego wants to make us believe that we are totally independent, that we can control everything. And so this idea of solo healing is really just a kind of control freakery. It's the idea that we're omniscient and we're omnipotent, like I said. And if you understand that human beings need human beings, well, if you want to be healed, really being healed is about becoming fully human. And so you're going to need other people. So it's never a solo journey. Another myth is the idea that like coaching or therapy or hypnotherapy or whatever, EMDR, people banging on gongs, people, I don't know, dancing around in the forest, whatever it is, any of these things can fix you. There is no short-term fix. There is nothing that is going to be like a little magic pill that you can take that's going to solve all your problems. But sometimes we believe that these different modalities like therapy and coaching and so on and so forth are going to get us to the point where we're completely healed. The best that they can do is help us to realize the truth about life so that we can go out there and start taking action in a real way. That means that we're doing what we can do. We're not holding back and hesitating, and then we're letting go and we're trusting life to fill in the blanks, and we're not freaking out when we go through that process of riding through uncertainty. When I work with my coaching clients, the best thing that I can do for them is get them to that point where they don't need coaching anymore. They understand what life is, and then they go out there and they've got the attitude and the mentality and the emotional resilience to be able to go take the actions that they need to take. That's the best thing that any of us can do, actually, because that's what makes us real. It means we're living in a way that's aligned with truth and with reality. Some modalities create more dependency than others. And so therapy, for example, you hear these stories of people that have been going to the same therapist for decades and decades and decades, and they haven't made any progress. And that's because they just going over the same old stuff. They're repeating the same old stories. They're repeating the same old scripts, patterns, and so on and so forth. They're just pouring their guts out and then poking around in the guts, hoping to find some little nugget of truth or wisdom that is going to set them free. What you need to do is realize that you don't need fixing because you're not broken, but what you need to do is take responsibility for the parts of you that feel broken and to start doing something about it. Nobody can do that for you. Like, nothing is going to fix you, because the only one that can fix you is you, by realizing that you don't need to be fixed, but that you need to be real, and that means taking action. The final myth of all these myths, there's been a lot of myths, is the idea that healing is a linear process. That you think, right, here I am right now, this is where I want to be, and if I just go through a certain sequence of events, then I'm finally going to be healed, and all of my problems are going to be solved, and then I can be a millionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire, and I'll find true love, and I'll get all of the approval and applause of the world, and everything's going to be amazing. No, healing is not a linear process, because life is not linear. Life is chaotic, it's unpredictable. But more than that, we can always go deeper. It's not like you just go from point A to point B, and then you've reached the final destination. It's more like a spiral. You remove a layer of something unreal, some fragmentary thing, and you go a bit deeper into wholeness. And then you remove another layer, and then you remove another layer, and then you remove another layer. And then you realize that there are no layers, but you can still go deeper into whatever it is that remains. Or another analogy is it's like you're climbing a mountain. At the bottom of the mountain, you're fragmented. You don't know who you are. You start climbing the mountain, and as you go up it, you face all these different parts of yourself and you let go of things that you need to let go of. You get to the top, but then you realize you're not at the top of the mountain because there's loads of other higher mountains that you can keep climbing. The point is, it never ends. Healing never ends, ever. We can always go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that just means we need to keep doing what I said earlier in the video, uncovering the truth and then living the truth. If you live like that every day, then you will put yourself on the path to healing because the truth is the only thing that can heal you, or aligning yourself with it, because it means there's going to be less resistance between you and life, and you're going to be living on a foundation of acceptance. The core theme of this video really is that all of these myths that I've been talking about take you away from acceptance. And what we need to do if we want to heal is to accept ourselves, which means we embrace the good and bad about ourselves, the shadow self, all the parts we've been hiding, and we accept the world, the way that it works, and we accept reality, which means we understand that things keep moving, that we can always go deeper, and that nothing ever ends until it does end, because we're all going to die. And if we're lucky, we'll die whole and healed instead of being fragmented and holding on to things that don't matter. So that was a video about the common myths that can confuse us on the path to healing. The simple version of what I said in this video is that healing is not a linear, simple process where we can get to a point, an imaginary point, where all of our dreams are going to come true and we're going to have no more problems in life. And all of the shame that we've been feeling is just going to dissolve like this, or the trauma is just going to disappear. It would be nice if time healed all wounds. It would be nice if healing led to enlightenment or consistent chronic happiness. Well, it can't, because we're human beings on planet Earth. That is a beautiful thing. Being a human being is amazing. Life is amazing. But if we have all of these bullshit things in our head that stop us from embracing life on its own terms, then we can't accept ourselves on our own terms, and we get confused and lost. And so that's why it's important to understand these myths, because really, all we need to do is to accept what's real. Real always works. That's the whole point of this channel. It's the whole point of everything I talk about in my books and with my coaching clients. If you understand that real is always the way, then you're going to save yourself a lot of time, because you're not going to be wasting yourself on all those myths. You're going to do the work which actually works, which is to realize that you're real and to keep doing something with that and to keep uncovering more of it by letting go of what's not real and focusing on what's real. That was a weird sentence. So anyway, hope this video helps you. Thank you for watching. If anyone wants to book a call with me, you can have a free coaching call here, ollyanderson.co.uk/talk. It's a coaching call, not a sales call, just so you can see what my coaching is all about. But other than that, stay real out there. Keep on the path towards healing without the bullshit. And peace to you.